sit in the best seat in the house and watch these fights for free. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously when we turned things around, we made it up to Joe. But Joe is one of the things that I love early on about. So I'll tell you the story. So we buy the UFC. They're based in New York. We're moving the corporate offices to Vegas. So I have to fly out to New York, go into the offices, and start going through everything and figuring out what needs to come back to Vegas and what we can just throw away. So they literally had a VHS machine and a TV, and there were a million tapes in this place, man. So I didn't know what tapes were. These definitely we have to keep, or these we don't need. So I just sit there and go through every single tape. And I popped in a tape, and there was an interview on the Ivory Keenan Wayans show, right? The oldest Wayans brother, and he had a talk show at the time. And he had Joe Rogan, the guy from Fear Factor, on the show. And he was promoting Fear Factor, but all he would talk about was UFC. And he was talking about how people think that these guys in the martial arts movies are tough and do it. And he was talking about what UFC fighters would do to these martial arts guys if they ever got their hands on them. And I was like, this is exactly what I need. A guy who isn't afraid to speak his mind and knows the sport inside and out, but more importantly, is super passionate about it and loves it. So when you see Joe Rogan on camera, and I was talking about the paid talking heads that they had in HBO boxing that were terrible. Joe Rogan does not come off as a paid talking head. He comes off as a guy who loves this. And so early on, no media would cover us. So I had to buy my way on the radio. So we do these radio tours, right? And they would drop us in. You'd have to get up at 3:30 in the morning in Vegas on the West Coast. And because they're at 6:30 in the morning in New York and Boston and Florida and all these other places. So they drop you into these markets to do radio, right? And the fighters were horrible at it. Fighters getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
Do they think having Trump all cooped up in that courtroom was somehow going to, I don't know, sap his mojo, make him all scared and weak? And not at all. No way. So the judge has off on Wednesdays. They call it a calendar day. Time for him to have lunch with his colleagues, brush up on the law. Anyway, he hits the campaign trail in the middle of the week. 2 rallies today. All the issues, you know the issues, we know the issues, right? I mean, no more bogus wars that we lose. How about having a border and not letting 8 million people in illegally? That kind of stuff. And also, of course, giving it to Joe Biden. Bad.
You know, when Biden went to the beach all the time, he'd go to the beach Tuesday, Wednesday. He's 81 years old. He doesn't look good in a bathing suit. Not a lot of people look good in it. That's okay, but somebody thought he looked good. But then he couldn't lift the chair. You know those chairs are meant for children to lift. They weigh about 4 ounces, right? You know, they're made out of hollow aluminum. Really light. In fact, if you're heavy, they crash. They bend in. They don't weigh much. And he was... And then he couldn't get his feet out of the sand. This is not a good look.
Forgot about all that stuff last summer. Yeah, what's up with that? Yeah. And he has every right to point it out, especially when Joe Biden is the guy who's trying to put him in jail. And more serious stuff about what's happening in Europe, how it's actually migrated or migrating to our country.
We've seen what happened when Europe opened their doors to jihad. Look at Paris. Look at London. They're no longer recognizable. And I'm going to get myself into a lot of trouble with the folks in Paris and the folks in London. But you know what? That's the fact. They are no longer recognizable. And we can't let that happen to our country. We have incredible culture, tradition. Nothing wrong with their culture, their tradition. Can't let that happen here. And I'll never let it happen to the United States of America.
It is a fact what's happening over there. London, England, they've lost it. They're losing their culture. It is being taken over. It is sad. You know, there is something to say about assimilation. you want people to come legally and assimilate, into the country. The values that Britain has, or the values that France used to have, being overtaken by hordes of illegals. And we don't want that happening here, but it's already happening, right? Our culture is disintegrating. We talk London, we talk Paris. Let's take a look at USC, the University of Southern California. Anti-Semitism. Haven't seen anti-Semitism really out in the open like this, I don't think, since Paris. Paris has had to deal with this for a long time. UCLA, right across town, also absolutely horrific. Horrific. This is America? No, it's not. We can fix this, but we have to move fast. Hey, Columbia University last night, I know, cops everywhere. I think it took about 6 minutes for them to take the building back and get rid of all those anarchists and, quite frankly, Jew haters. That's what they are. Who, by the way, trashed the place. They absolutely trashed the place. Look at this. Horrible graffiti all over the place and just, well, making a mess of things. Vandalizing, destroying, defacing, and a lot worse than January 6th. Can't emphasize this enough, okay? January 6th was not such a big deal, all right? 36 hours after January 6th, actually the morning of January 8th, totally clean, open, no problem. They're going to be cleaning up Hamilton Hall in Columbia for months. Joe Biden, meanwhile, laughing, enjoying himself, keeping a very low profile. For all of his presidency, really, avoiding the media, not doing interviews, not doing press conferences, and he does them. They're catastrophic failures, so he doesn't want to do them. But nowhere more has his lack of leadership ability been evident since October 7th, what happened to Israel. Joe, in some quarters, well, he's been really good on this issue. No, he hasn't. He's let down everybody. He's let down freedom-loving people. The aftermath, the immediate aftermath, it's like it is today. Quiet. Sunday, October 8th. You know what he was doing? He was with those investigators looking into the secret documents he kept in his garage in his house. Yep. Even throughout the week. Nothing. Jews were dying all over the place. They were picking up the pieces. Joe Biden had nothing to say. And finally, when he did, and the anti-Semitic riots had already started in America, and we knew Iran had a role in all that stuff, he didn't say anything about Iran. He didn't say anything about anti-Semitism. And he still is basically hiding. Head in the sand, worried about what AOC is going to say. The whole country basically up in smoke to some degree, right? Look all over the place. It's awful. And where was Joe today? Nowhere. A private event. They put out a paper statement. Why be president if you're not going to lead? Don't you want to lead? Especially in a moment like this. The thing is, Joe doesn't know how to lead. Can't forget that Joe spent his entire adult life, essentially, as one of 100 U.S. senators. Joe's in here somewhere. Yeah, there he is, all the way in the back. And everybody in that picture sitting, they're all of the same rank, right? 100 senators. They get there and they realize, I'm just one of 100. It's not that big a deal. They have like 30 staff members. They write letters and make deals and raise money. It's not a leadership position. He doesn't know how to lead. And the guy who does, they're trying to throw him in jail.
If I wasn't running or doing well, if I wasn't running, I wouldn't have more indictments than the great Alphonse Capone. Alphonse Capone. He killed people if they looked at him a little bit different. I don't like the way that guy looks. I don't like to kill that son of a bitch. He only got indicted once, I understand. Alphonse Capone, nice gentleman. I got indicted. Can you imagine my mother and father saying, I can't believe it. My son got indicted more than Al Capone.
He's right. He got indicted more than the notorious gangster Al Capone. How many times? Six felony counts against Al Capone there. And how many for President Trump? 91. That is pretty insane. That's a joke. That makes this whole thing comical. How about Jeffrey Dahmer? The guy who ate people. 15 felony counts. Murder, granted. And how many prosecutors were on his case? 2, sometimes 3, depending on the day. How many prosecutors are up against Donald Trump? 8, sometimes 10, depending on the day, for this little thing about filling out a check stub with the wrong word. Really, that's like the main thing. You do not keep accurate check stubs. Well, this case is blowing up in their face. I'm fascinated by it. I catch up on the transcripts, especially when there's no court. It's really cool. You know, the star witnesses, right? Michael Cohen. And every single one of the prosecution's witnesses so far, they hate Michael Cohen. They make fun of him. And this goes back to 2018. Folks, there's so much fake news about this. Watch carefully.
But today in court, Cohen emotionally declared he'll fight to make sure history doesn't remember him as the villain. His voice cracking, he described the shame he brought on his wife, children, and elderly parents, all of whom were in court. But the judge was unmoved, sentencing Cohen to 3 years in prison for what he called a veritable smorgasbord of fraud, saying Cohen had lost his moral compass.
Wow, that's a pretty stinging indictment, right? Really harsh thing to say. Back in 2018, 6 years ago, Cohen blames Trump for every single one of his problems. But his problems, actually, what got him in real trouble, have nothing to do with Donald Trump, even though the fake news tries to deceive us.
Michael Cohen arriving at court today, clutching the arm of his heartbroken daughter. Hoping for mercy, he took full responsibility for his crime. The personal ones to me, he said, and those involving the President of the United States. Prosecutors say Cohen acted in coordination with and at the direction of Individual 1, a.k.a. Donald Trump, when he facilitated hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels and Playboy playmate Karen McDougal so they wouldn't go public before the election.
Well, you notice he said, Cohen, he was quoted as saying, the crime's personal to me and the ones with the president. Let's skip these, the ones he alleged with the president. Okay, forget that. Let's stick to the personal ones for Cohen, because they're real, and that's why he went to jail. This stuff is fake. Avoiding income tax, that's real, and he did. And I have this from the federal government. How much money did he make and not report? Take a look at that in 2012, almost $900,000 he did not report to the government. Had nothing to do with Trump. It had to do with these tax medallions and properties that he owned and was moving around. 2013, $500,000. Didn't owe the government $300,000 of that. It goes on like this. $670,000 in 2014. You see, almost $1 million in 2015. And look at all the money that we, the people, lost out on, the IRS. This is why he went to jail, not that other stuff. The other thing that the prosecution, I think they're kind of, Michael Cohen, nobody likes him, and nobody believes him. Even the prosecution's own witnesses. Everybody who takes the stand says that this guy is not nice, and is not honest, and is all around bad. I have this from the transcript this week. Let's go through it. This guy Keith Davidson is a lawyer, and he's telling a story here. Gina called me up to tell me that some jerk called me and was very, very aggressive and threatened to sue me. Wow. And would you like to, Keith, call this jerk back? The prosecutor says, I hate to ask it this way, but who was that jerk? It was Michael Cohen. And Mr. Cohen, I believe you said, you believe he's an aggressive guy. He's a fast speaker. Someone who is not the easiest guy to work with. I would say so, yes. And it goes on like this, all the witnesses. And Gina, excuse me, Dylan asked Gina to call Michael Cohen and finish his deal with him, and Gina refused. So she asked me to call Cohen, and I refused. And then Dylan called me to convince me to call Cohen. The moral of the story was no one wanted to talk to Cohen. The prosecutor's like, okay. And the jurors all laughed. They're getting the picture. This guy is a jerk. I think there's one more. So what happened when you called? Did you call Michael Cohen? I did. Tell us about that. He actually had to call Cohen. Now it's in this. I called. I was transferred to Michael Cohen. I introduced myself. And before I could barely get my name out, I was just met with a hustle barrage of insults and insinuations and allegations that went on for quite a while. What was the gist of what he was accusing you of? I don't think he was accusing us of anything. He was just screaming. He is a crazy person. He was 6 years ago, and he was 2 days ago.
Is this like all of this sort of mental excitement because he's such a despicable human being, a racist, sexist, misogynist, xenophobe, homophobe, Islamophobe, anti-Semite, that I want to see him in an orange jumpsuit. No. If that's where he ultimately ends up, okay.
He needs to be in a rubber room. So why do they go forward with this case, with this as their star witness? Well, Alvin Bragg, under a lot of pressure from the Biden White House, we believe, from George Soros. You know, it wasn't an easy thing for him to become the district attorney. There were a lot of very liberal candidates running for the same position, and they all had to out-liberal each other to get the big money, the George Soros money. Alvin Bragg got a huge chunk of George Soros money. He's got that PAC, Color of Change. Well, look at this. They pledged $1 million. Color of Change PAC also pledged over $1 million on an independent expenditure campaign to support Alvin Bragg. And something weird happens. In the middle of the campaign, a woman reportedly calls the campaign, calls other people and says, Alvin Bragg did something to me when we were in college, and it was very, very bad. Every campaign knew about this. They were going to report it, but it never made news during the campaign. But the George Soros people started pulling back their money.
A recess at any point. Good morning, Secretary Mayorkas, and thank you for joining the committee to discuss the budget that you and President Biden put forward for the Department of Homeland Security. On March 1st, the department celebrated its 21st anniversary, and I want to thank all the public servants throughout DHS who dedicate their lives to securing the homeland. This work is vital to our nation's safety and security. Secretary, when you took the oath of office, you swore to, quote, support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office, end quote. The Immigration and Nationality Act further makes clear that you have a, quote, duty to control and guard the boundaries and borders of the United States, end quote. During your 3 years as Secretary, you have failed to fulfill this oath. You refused to comply with the laws passed by Congress, and you breached the public trust. You facilitated and encouraged record levels of illegal immigration since your first day in office. We've all witnessed the devastating results of your open borders agenda. I've shared this before, but I feel it's necessary to repeat it. You abolished working policies, and following the statements of your boss on his campaign trail, promises to improperly grant asylum to anyone who came. As a result, people from all over the world tested the system. They came and were released, they come home, and the mass waves began. With this increased demand, the cartels took advantage, regulated that flow to overwhelm the crossing sites at our border. We responded by removing the Border Patrol agents from the border, marshals from the air, customs agents from airports, to process and release these record numbers of people, and issued guidance to DHS law enforcement to violate laws passed by this co-equal branch of government, Congress, on detention and removal. With the border wide open and Border Patrol occupied processing the mass waves of people, the cartels have poured drugs, criminals, and trafficked humans into this country. This has led to the deaths of thousands, the loss of billions of dollars, and created the crisis that you just finally acknowledged as such.
All right. Here we go.
The dozen or so CHP officers now closing in on the front of the encampment. And it looks like somebody's about to give the order to go ahead and move in. I think we're seconds away from seeing some movement here on the end, on the east side of this encampment, where there is a large ancient plywood wall.
Uh-oh. Oh, the cops are going for it.
We'll see just how well constructed it was. I think there's plenty of opportunity here for...
Here it comes. Waited all fucking night for this. God damn. And I think I was gonna go to bed. The moment of truth? Yeah. They're touching the barricade. They sure are. Yep.
Maybe they're looking for some more people who are willing to negotiate. Look at that. A whole group of students that were blocking the staircase now, walking away with their hands up, being led down to the back of Royce Hall. Dozens of students now being away from Royce Hall with their and officers now...
No combat. Yep. Just give up. Just give up, boys. Let's go. They're done. They roached out. Oh, bro, they're pulling that shit down. Here we go. Hold the line, bro. Oh, man. Here we go. They slash shit out of there. Yeah. I think they're using bolt cutters. Yep. I bet they do. We had all night for this? We did. Man. Guys, like, hey, can I just get that? Just like real quick. Yeah. Cool. Uh-oh. Man. Man. Guys, I think it might be over. Oh. Get that shit over here. Uh-oh.
This is the walkway that leads to the front of Royce Hall. I think that leads to the front door.
Oh, man.
It's a foyer that kind of leads to the front of the building here. It looks like it may be penetrated.
There's another one. They are just tearing that shit down.
Under that roof there, you can see employees trying to conceal or maybe, I don't know what they're doing with the walls, quite frankly.
Jesus. Look at this. I think the cops are using like bolt cutters or something so they don't like lock the barrier. There's like metal things together. I'm not sure.
Tear apart that barricade.
Barricade with plywood, that'll work. Well, I mean, let's be honest, nothing was gonna work. If the police tried to, Here we go. Here we go. fucking yeah, for sure. Yeah. See ya. Oops. There goes another one. Uh-oh. Bro, they are just tearing this shit apart. Uh-oh. Ah, there it is. Uh-oh. They about to scatter? We'll see what happens. Look at that. It sure is. That's like $10,000 in plywood. Yeah, it's crazy how passive the cops seem to be. They're not even really doing a whole lot. They're just getting the wood and moving the wood away. Uh-oh, uh-oh. There it is. But what do they got that? Oh my God. Not the tent, bro. The tent is gone. Are they really saying we're not leaving right now? I feel like this is the wrong time to say that. Yeah, it's the wrong time, bro. Uh-oh. Oh shit. I don't know what those sounds are. Let me see if I can get another frame. Jesus. This is the best one? It is. Man.
Okay, great.
The umbrellas represent hope. What's the YouTube link? I'll link you guys to the channel again. There's a channel, bro. This guy has like the best POV. Give him a follow.